Hello, Kriegsspiel world. My name is Marshall, and I am here with another video. And today we're going to talk about how Kriegsspiel ought to be judged. Now, there are probably a million different opinions on this, but as the founder of the International Kriegsspiel Society, as a person who has done a heck of a lot of Kriegsspiel, and as a person who has published rules on how to play Kriegsspiel, I want to offer my opinion. You are welcome to disagree with me. If you have a different opinion or you want to ask questions, post them in the comments below. All right, let's talk. I've opened up the Metz module, which is my favorite module, and I put my notes in here simply to kind of keep me on track and so that you can kind of follow along with where we're going. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the purpose of war. Sun Tzu says that the best thing you could do is defeat your enemy without fighting. And that's really awesome, absolutely true. If you can do that, do it. Because war is a bad thing, right? But if you're playing Kriegsspiel, the war is a given, the battle is going to be fought. So we go on to kind of the next level here, which is Clausewitz. And Clausewitz says that the purpose of war is to end the enemy's will to resist. Get the enemy to surrender, get the enemy to give in to whatever political aim you have, whatever that may be, whether it's to conquer their country or to take over territory or to get revenge for some international slight or offense or whatever it may be. Get the enemy to that point. And that's why you're fighting a war. When we run Kriegsspiel, we have to kind of keep this overall strategic objective in mind. And when you present a scenario to the players, no scenario briefing is really complete until you have given kind of this backstory, this national motivation. Why is your nation at war? What is your great war aim? After that, you then need to talk about the purpose of your campaign. Now, you might be doing a campaign level scenario, or you might be doing a battle scenario that's more of a tactical level thing. But the campaign matters. There's a reason why you're fighting a campaign. Maybe you're Lee and you're invading the North to force the Union to peace talks and to accept your terms. Okay? So that's a campaign. Whatever campaign it may be, whether it's the Battle of the Bulge or the Tet Offensive or the Battle for Iwo Jima, Overlord, whatever it may be, you have a campaign and that campaign has a goal. And you also need to include that in the briefing because you need to consider that as an umpire. You need to consider the campaign goals when evaluating the winners and the losers. And the players, of course, have to know. And finally, at the tactical level, where you get down to where guys are actually shooting at each other, you have to take a look at what is happening on the battlefield and are particular objectives being captured or lost or ignored or circumvented or whatever. Those things matter. But one of the problems that we get into is that people kind of fetishize a particular hill or a ridge or a crossing or something. They become very much obsessed with it. They go all in with it because they believe or they have been told by the umpires that taking that particular objective is the entire purpose of the battle. And they forget about the purpose of the operation or the campaign. They forget about the purpose of the war. All they want to do is take this particular objective and nothing else matters. If they take that objective, they win the game over, and they go home feeling very proud of themselves. And that's not what we should be trying to do with Kriegsspiel. All right, so what we should be rewarding is breaking the will of an opponent to fight while preserving your own will to fight. And what are the factors that impact that? Well, men and material. So you have to have men in order to fight. If you kill off all of the enemy's men, then the enemy can no longer resist you. So that's one very crude but effective way to win the battle and in turn to win the operation or the campaign and in turn, of course, to win the war. Material is also important. Why did the Allies bomb the crud out of Germany during World War II? Because we were trying to destroy their material production. We wanted to deprive them of the bullets, the beans, and the gas that they need in order to wage war. Hungry troops fight poorly. Unarmed troops fight poorly. If the troops don't have gas and they can't get to the battlefield, well, they're not going to fight at all. So if you can take away their material, then you're going to win the campaign and the war. So a lot of times a battle will focus on either destruction of men or destruction of material, such as by capturing, a town or a rail line or something, so that we can deprive the enemy of their material, whatever that may be. So those are things that happen in war. All right. Positioning around key objectives is also important, because take a look at this. If I take this hill down here, and I've actually put it underneath this page here, so let's move it. Let's move my little notes document. But, if I am fighting a battle to get to Metz, if Metz is my campaign objective, I might decide that I want to secure these two hills right here. And by securing these two hills, I have a high ground position that allows me to overlook this area here and rain down artillery or something like that. I might also be interested in a crossroads or a bridge crossing, such as up here where we have some crossings. There's another bridge crossing right here. I might be interested in these particular positions. Here's a key crossroad. Here's another one up here, and so on. I might be interested in all these things. And the reason I'm doing that, though, is simply because by taking those positions, I can inflict greater casualties on the enemy than he can on me. And as a result, I destroy his men, and therefore, in some small part, I reduce their morale and the will to resist. So that's why you would do that. But one of the problems that we have is that people become obsessed with taking a key position, and then they go all in for it. They think they're playing a poker game. They forget about the war. They forget about the campaign, and they just laser focus on this objective. And one of the things that umpires do wrong is they'll say, hey, this particular objective is worth 10 points, or whoever controls this objective at the end of the battle wins the game. Well, that's really cool if you want to have a very clear, bright line for who wins and who loses. But that's not how actual war is fought. And since Kriegsspiel is designed to simulate reality, you don't want to create these artificial contrivances that compel players to fight over a particular objective at the expense of everything else, because that's what they will do. They want to get that trophy. They want to get that W, that win, if you will. So they will go all in for that objective, and they won't give a fig for anything else. So that's a mistake, I think, when you set up your Kriegsspiel with a key objective like that. Instead, each battle needs to be understood as part of a larger campaign. The true objective should be to demoralize the enemy while preserving your own strength, which means that you tell the players to come up with their own objectives, to simply fight the battle and to worry about preserving their forces, as opposed to simply, taking a particular objective. We need players to kind of come up with objectives on their own, and they will naturally do so. If you put players at opposite ends of the map and say, go, there they are, go get them, whatever it may be, or better yet, say, look, you're part of an operation, or you're fighting an operation, one of those two, to secure ground or an area so that the army can follow on behind you and do whatever they want to do to further their campaign or their operation. That is better than saying you need to, go for broke fighting over this bridge. Whoever controls this bridge wins the battle. Even if that's true, you might want to avoid telling players that, because the idea is if the players come onto the battlefield with their forces and they have just sort of a general purpose or a general idea, but they know what that is, the objectives will appear organically. they will recognize that, hey, if I want to do that, if I want to control this territory up here, then I absolutely am going to have to be able to get there. And if I want to get there, I need this bridge, I need this bridge here, I need this crossroads over here, which I've covered up with my notes. And they will naturally and organically fight over these positions without you having to instruct them to do so as an umpire. And that, I think, is a better way to run a Kriegsspiel. When you judge the Kriegsspiel, you need to be competent and you need to be impartial. And those are very important things. Do not run a Kriegsspiel where you have a particular affinity or preference for one side or the other. Don't think in your mind, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, I want to see the good guys win. Or maybe in your mind, it's more fun to be the bad guys, I want to see the bad guys win. Players do this all the time. I should say umpires do this all the time. They have a natural bias. Maybe they just think that Napoleon and his army was the greatest thing since, canned tins. And they decide that they want to favor Napoleon, and Napoleon is just so elite, and his guard is so amazing, and his cavalry is so incredible. They're just going to smash through, and oh, look at that beautiful grand battery, and somehow Napoleon wins every battle. Or you get people on the opposite side where Napoleon never wins any scenario they run. If you believe that you are given to any of these biases, or a more common bias is my best friend is playing on the other team, I want to see my buddy win, something like that, then you need to reframe the scenario and take those forces out of the calculus, because you cannot offer an objective decision if you are involved with those forces, because in your mind you have a particular affinity, a subconscious preference that one side or the other should win, and you need to eliminate that. So what I say is use red versus blue, or green versus yellow, or whatever it may be. Make up fictional nations, have a completely fictional battle if you need to. But you have to be impartial. And as a human, it is naturally hard to be impartial, but you need to do everything you can to be as impartial as possible. All right. And of course, you have to be competent. And that means, knowing a thing or two about Kriegsspiel and how to adjudicate a Kriegsspiel. But we're going to assume you have competency. You need to judge a battle within the context of the overall campaign. Now, this is really important. You cannot judge a battle based on who controls this position right here. That might be a really vital and important position, but if that is what you're going to judge the battle on, and the players get wind of that, or they know that, they're going to send everything they've got this direction, and they're going to ignore the main objective, which is what they should be going for up there. They're going to be focused the wrong way, and you're not going to get a battle. What you're going to get is a game. And if you want to judge a game, then get some hex and counter game out there, throw it out on the table, and play that instead. If you want to play Kriegsspiel, however, play Kriegsspiel and judge it appropriately. The winner should be the side that maintains their strength while breaking the enemy's will. But that might not necessarily happen in the context of a battle. In fact, oftentimes one of the things I'll do is I won't even declare a winner, because just in real war, there are no umpires that take the field after a battle is fought and count the dead and say, well, this side's the winner, they inflicted more casualties, or this side's the winner, they held the key hill at the end of the battle. That may be true, but it's not always the case, and there's certainly no objective umpire that comes down from on high to crown one general or another general the victor. Oftentimes, the end of a battle and the winner of the battle isn't quite fully appreciated until sometime after. Different sides might have different win conditions. One side might think, well, we won because we escaped without being destroyed, or we lived to fight another day, or we inflicted more casualties on them than they on us. The other side might think, well, we won because we secured the crossroads, and then they all pack up and leave the next day. Battle of Aldrain Valley much? Yeah, okay. Both sides thought they won. One side because they defeated the enemy, the other side because after the battle was over, the enemy departed. They got in their helicopters and flew away. Who really won? Well, we can sit here and argue all day, can't we? And that's okay. Let the players have that argument. What I do think we need to do is recognize individual winners, however. And these are people who make optimal decisions even if their side loses. So even if you want to declare one side or the other as a winner, which is just fine, just keep in mind the operational context and the overall global war aims of the side that you're depicting. But get down to that individual level and say, you know what, this side, they lost, but this particular player on that side really did some good things. Maybe they lost their entire command fighting a rearguard action. Maybe they did go all in, but they took a key objective, which in turn destroyed the enemy will to resist. That would be okay. Or perhaps they said, you know what, here's a person who got there. They said, nope, not today. And they retreated because they realized that if they stayed in the fight, their entire command would be destroyed. Maybe that's the best decision for the overall campaign or the overall war. And if they have done so in the context of that overall campaign or war, they need to be recognized and appreciated for that fact, because that's what happens in actual war. There are different ways that I think we can ensure a fair judgment. One way, if it's a particularly big game, is to cast ballots before the final critique. I need to not cross that out, so you can actually read it. Have the umpires cast ballots, and they only need like a 1 or 2 line justification for why they're casting the ballot, or a paragraph perhaps. But they ought to cast the ballot and turn that in, whether it's on paper or they type that out into a Discord channel, and then the lead umpire can then review those and tally everything up. I think that's a good way to get objective decisions. And then the winner is the side with the majority vote of umpires. That ensures impartiality and fairness in determining the final outcome. Finally, victory should not be based solely on holding objectives, which is kind of my entire point in making this video. It's about preserving the forces, breaking the enemy's will, and of course recognizing individual brilliance. But the big thing is, did you make the right decisions in the context of the overall operation and campaign? And whoever does that best without squandering their entire force, that's the side, and those are the players that I feel need to be recognized as winners in a Kriegsspiel. All right, I hope that suffices to offer my opinion. And again, if you have a different opinion, feel free to comment below, or to go ahead and make your own video. Do what you want, it's a free world out there, and judge your Kriegsspiel however you like. But if you have a more compelling argument, I'd love to hear it, and I will give it a fair listen, and hey, maybe it'll even change my mind. But for right now, this is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you very much. We will see you on our next adventure. Goodbye for now.